Well, hello everyone, and live talk with Becky Chernek tonight. And boy, do I have an amazing featured guest speaker, Michael Depeazer. And thank you so much, Michael, for being here with us tonight. And a little bit of a malfunction there, guys, but we are on, and that's what car people do. We get through it. So, right, Michael?
Yep.
And it was
No
my
other
wrong.
way.
It's my, but again, it's certainly a pleasure to have you here tonight, Michael. So, to get things started, you have an interesting background and from Canada. So, why don't you, if you wouldn't
hmm
mind, share a little bit of that background with everyone and who you are and what you do and why you do it?
Yeah, certainly. I appreciate the time to connect with you and everyone out there. Yeah, so a little background. I feel like we're all the same in many ways, but I would describe myself as a student of life. I feel like there's always a job title on the door, but there's a how we do things. So as I life, this student of life got me to be very curious. But long story short, I entered the car business after I graduated from university. It was a quick stop that I thought, hey, I'm not going to be in a car business. I got my
Yeah.
university degree. So when I got into the car business, I realized that, wait a minute, you could help people in this business. So I got into sales. I was in sales for 5 years at a Mazda store. Then after that, I just needed more. So I got a finance position where for 10 years as a finance manager, I could relate to finance managers in and inside and outside, front ways and back ways. I did that for 10 years. And then after that, I needed more. I just find that this constant growth was necessary. So after 10 years as a finance manager, I became a national pitch trainer for Auto Canada. That was an awesome opportunity, which was great. So I was that for 3 years. And then now I started my own business because you know what? My heart's in it. My heart is in it with this FSMs. The best way to describe me, I roll up my sleeves. So you know what? It brings me here. And I'm very grateful to be here where I could empower some people's lives to make a change. So yeah, I'm very excited.
Well, I've had some time in Canada, and I also did some consulting and facilitation in Canada, and I have met some of the most awesome people. I mean, just terrific, terrific professionals who really want to embrace the car business and learning and all that. So here's the thing. When you talk Auto Canada, what is that? And when you say pitching, what do you mean by that? And how? Hey,
Yeah.
Larry, I just wanted to do a call out here. Larry's just said hi, and
Hey, Larry.
I wanted to make sure I said hey back, Larry. Thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah, certainly. So Auto Canada is the largest publicly traded auto group in Canada. 2018-19, they almost went belly up, for
Oh,
lack of better words. They really restructured everything. Everything. It's like the biggest story in the automotive business. So what they did was they restructured every department. Now, it happened to be when I left my job, I had a hypothesis. I created a hypothesis how I wanted to train. I knew being a finance manager, there's two things particularly that they need adjustments with, so to speak: mindset and process. This hardly exists. So I had this hypothesis, and I know dealership because I had a good reputation. So dealership would call me and say, "Hey, Mike, do you want to be a finance manager?" I'd show up for the interview, but I'd share my hypothesis, what I want to do. Not many could do that until I met with Auto Canada. They were actually basically going belly up, and they needed anything they could get. So if they heard somebody with a little bit of passion, they're ready to grab it. So this hypothesis, which I'm going to share something about it later, but this hypothesis was to have his mindset and process. So they're very, I guess, open to ideas. So the vice president met with me. He thought it was good. So let's test it out, Mike. You want to start a business? We have the resources. Let's test this out. So I got full reins.
wow,
Full reins. They would
that's unheard of.
It's
And
unheard of. But when see this companies, the amazing thing about them is they don't try to do all the work. They get the guy who could do the work to do the work, and they stay out of it. So by that being said, I was able to create a unique 2-day training program, which is able to basically take somebody with no experience. You could pick them from your someone in a dealership. You could get them from the admin. If they have a good attitude, to the 2-day, and they'll be top producers. Why? Because I teach a process when I call pitch training, which you refer to. Pitch is just teaching a process of how to pitch your products in a way that is a framework. It allows a person to be themselves, but it equips them with that word tracks so that they could be successful. And if you see the success of Auto Canada's finance department, it's skyrocketed. I think their average is like $3,400 a vehicle or whatnot. It's publicly traded numbers. Anyone could find this. So yeah, that's pitch training. Teaching
wow, that
somebody
is some
specific
big numbers,
word tracks.
guys. Did you just say $3,400? I want to make sure I get this per car.
Yeah, $3,400. If you remove the reserve, it's high 27s.
Okay, so you guys are also going for more a product PVR, and then you add in the reserve after the fact. Yes.
No, the idea of the reserve, when the reserve is always there, but to take it off, yes, correct.
Yes.
To take it off is to see apples to apples. See what people are actually doing. See where the adjustments need to be made.
I love that idea. I really do. So okay. But I'm telling you that is phenomenal. So how many, I mean, like if you could say how many rooftops are we talking here across the board with Auto Canada doing, what did you say again? 3,400?
Yeah, they have about 68 stores. They have 160 finance managers. They're continually buying more stores. They just bought a bunch after I left as well. So they have a plug and play system. Literally, it's plug and play.
So when you say that plug and play, it's process oriented. It's, you're diving into a specific process, and, and so the F&I people or managers are obligated to this process to implement all the time.
You know what?
Is there any tolerance?
Is there anything else to do than the process? Whoever doesn't have a process, there's no productivity. A process allows you to adjust feedback. It allows you to do the same thing and get the feedback from the people who you serve, not based on theory. So process is necessary because as you do it over time, not only do you fine tune the intricacies of it, but you're also getting better as you deliver it. So how I created this process, it's my process that I created. It's actually their staple program that they use. That's the only training program.
Wow, come on, guys. You want to go ahead and bring him on. Wait, forget about, no, wait a minute. You have me. No, just kidding.
Yes, we have both of us. So the long story short, a process is necessary. So how I developed the process for myself was I knew I didn't need to know anything because training was lacking. What I do is I send out a consistent message to the customers. So say, for instance, there's 10 customers I speak to, and I share a message about why they need warranty. And I know they need warranty from their circumstance they described. And if they say no, I totally understand. It has nothing to do with me. It's my message. I need to change my message. So when you keep sending out the same message, the feedback from the customers will allow you to know what to adjust. So what I knew is, okay, they're responding to my message. I need to be more clear on my message. And when you make those adjustments, when you serve the right people, which is your audience, they'll give you the feedback to serve them. It's the egos in the business that get involved where we take this theory and we put it on someone else rather than delivering a service, seeing what they say about it. And if there's a consistent reaction, we adjust only that. So it makes it easy, but less is more in this whole world. It seems to be the approach. When we do more, it seems to always be all over the map.
I talk a little bit about that, less is more, and I couldn't agree with you more. I feel like we over embellish on our menus, put way too many products, and let's face it, many F&I people just don't go over every single one of those products 100% of the time, all the time, and that's just the way it really is, right? So I feel like our menu is our real estate, and we have to really make sure that we size it up right with valuable products that certainly make sense. It's not in the numbers of products necessarily. It's in the value of the products that you're presenting to the customer 100% of the time, which I got to say, you got a lot of compliments already tonight. You have got a lot of, so when we talked on the phone, I'm thinking, darn, I really like this man. I like Michael. He just is so inspirational. And that's another thing. We have to get more positive, right, about what we're doing and why we do what we do. And this is what I think that you do such a terrific job. It's you're not so much about me and my ego, and you're about how can I deliver this message so that you take it in and you embrace it and you can actually impact change that matters. So this is why you've got comments from Jim Man Baxter. Hi guys, Michael
Hey,
is the
Jim.
king. Yo, you go. Good
I
job
worked with
there.
Jim for many years. He's a great guy.
And we have another Facebook user. I don't know your name. You have to let me know who it is. All about the customers. Absolutely. And it's so true about what you're saying. And then we have from Facebook, this is how I teach my guys, build value and everything falls into line.
Yep.
Richie Bello. Okay, cool. Richie Bello's on. He's a terrific guy. I got to tell you that Richie Bello. He is awesome. Thank you for being here, Richie. I really appreciate it. Glad you're here. And joining in the conversation tonight. So I got to tell you, Michael, we also had this conversation. Speaking of which, products on the menu, but and so we do a presentation, and now we're going to attempt to overcome objections. And we have a lot of trainers out there. We have several, not everyone, but we do. It's becoming controversial. In that, do we train F&I people to overcome objections utilizing word tracks through word tracks, or is it more or less let them kind of figure it out? Let them use some sort of thought something, and they can address the objection however which way they see it. It's more natural that way. And besides, when you're utilizing these canned word tracks, it's likely going to turn off the customer. What do you think about that?
Well, here's kind of what I think about that. Everybody's right depending on who you're training. What does it mean? We don't have work problems. We have personal problems that show up at work. So who's going to accept the word track? Who has the confidence to accept it and employ it? So if they don't accept it and employ it because their confidence is low, is that the word track? Why do teams and sports teams have plays that they follow every day? So the question is your F&I is a professional or an amateur? That's the real question, because a professional would want the proven tracks that actually make change. Or do they want to reinvent the wheel? So word tracks are amazing. I feel it's also better with the word track being in a framework. And word tracks don't have to be as rigid as we might think. Like, for instance, when you're transitioning to products, a simple word track could be, did Ryan tell you about the warranty? Now it fosters the right conversation. So yeah, I feel like it's not about the word tracks. It's who's receiving the word tracks. Now this idea of thoughts, word thoughts, having someone be their natural self. Well, that's why the finance numbers aren't showing up, because people are taking their personal problems and bringing them to work. So that is not going to work. But let's just consider this job. It's it's the best paying job in the world, I call it. Think of it. You're a CEO. You have your own inventory. You have your own service department. You have your own parts department. You have your own staff. You have your own car department. And when you leave, you could plug out. And you're telling me you're not practicing the stuff that works? So we got to question these folks who are not taking this stuff serious, because pound for pound, the F&I office is the number one profit generating office in the dealership. But yet the front end sales, which you could hardly measure results, is getting most of the training. So yeah, word tracks, I feel without it, how do you get better? Now let me give you another example. When you're consistently using your word track, you could gauge what I call the feedback loop, which means you're going to deliver a word track, and if you have 10 people in your audience, how they respond tells you what you need to adjust. So with this common approach of do whatever you feel like approach, how do you get that adjustment? How do you know what word resonates, what doesn't work? I tell you, my training program, I trained somebody in 2 days. They're doing top numbers, and it's not about word tracks. They need to know the fundamentals of how people make decisions. You can't sell anybody anything. What you could do is create awareness, and through your awareness, they buy. So this is how my finance managers gain confidence. Now, I'm going to kind of get a little off topic, but the one thing finance managers lack is confidence. I know it's for a fact because before I meet with a finance manager, I have a discovery sheet, and they all want confidence. And when they leave, that's what they gain is confidence. So how do they get confidence? They have to be able to see what they're doing and how it makes impact. So why do they get to relax? I say you don't have to sell. I'll give this example. Imagine you go to Mexico tomorrow. You open up your laptop and you see it says temperature is 45 degrees. Ooh, nice. Beautiful. And under it says the cartel is shooting random international guests. We don't know where they're going to show up. Just make sure you come and you're always alert. So some people will cancel their trip. Some people will go, but even if they go, they're looking around. Now imagine that same trip. Somebody goes to that same trip to Mexico, but they didn't open up their laptop. They're going with a smile. So customers do not need to know how great the products are. They need to be painted a picture of what it looks like when they're.
Amen.
Well, here's the
Absolutely.
thing. We're in the feeling business, right? We have feelings. So
we are in a feeling business.
So if we want to be transparent, we got to show them how it looks because their feelings going to trigger the change. But when we're talking how great the product is, they can hardly see how they need it.
Amen.
If I have Advil on my desk, if I have a bottle of Advil on my desk,
yes.
Someone has a headache, I hardly have to sell it. So they need to know what it could look like for them to make a well-informed decision. So that's where I feel the disconnect is. So when you equip somebody with the confidence, the word tracks, they'll ride with it, they'll flow with it. That's all they want to use. As a matter of fact, I did a training recently. One of the executives from a major group sat in, and he said, yeah, the only different thing from our training is your word tracks. They're so good. Word tracks. So it's not about word tracks, how you use them, who you're using with.
Well, it's just like anything else. It's like a presentation. If you do a presentation a million freaking times, no one's going to know that you did this presentation a million times, but it's going to sound like, man, you own this, you got this. You're more confident in your skin. It becomes you're passionate about who you are and what you're all about, because you know what? The truth of the matter is you're confident in your presentation. You just are. There's nothing worse than stumbling on stage. And trust me, I don't even have to share that with you. I bet you practice until the cows come home before you get on stage to do any sort of a presentation, because once you own it, feel it, you deliver it, it becomes you, and you are enthusiastic about it, and people love it. People love it. And so that's how I see it. I want to be able to respond in a more positive way when it comes to the products that I offer to my customers. And I want to make sure that they understand the value behind those products. Yes?
Is there any other way? Please tell me. There is no other way. Paint the picture, tell a story. You know what I say this? A picture is as real as a thought. A picture is as real as something you could touch, I should say. So I joke with my finance manager. I say, don't think of a pink elephant. See, this is exactly what happens. They giggle and laugh, right? So I say, okay, see how you giggled and laughed? That's because I said something. It transferred to a feeling and you laugh. So I said, what about this? When we're doing an interview with our customers and we ask them, hey, what are you using the car for? Oh, I'm just using the car, just myself. Anyone else using it? You know, my son goes to hockey practice in another town, but it's only on the weekends. Okay, you gather that information. Later when you're presenting the warranty, hey, your warranty covers X, Y, Z, all that tech we spoke about. Oh, also, remember you said your son's plays out of town. So say he's stuck between here and there and there's a snowstorm. He doesn't have to worry about changing his tire. But look, they have to see that picture. And because they see it, it creates a feeling of some sort that they might say, you know what, honey, maybe we should look at this. But they see it vividly. But instead of listening to what they say and painting the right picture, this is where it gets interesting. We're painting a picture of someone in Mexico needing a car repair when this person can't relate to it.
So here's the question. When we talked, you told me, Beck, here's the thing. We talk about training and we're intense in our training efforts. And I know I'm very intense when it comes to training, because I know people are taking time to be there. Dealers are paying. We are taking time out of our lives to attend a training session. So you say, Beck, here's how I feel about it. When we come to presentation efforts, role play, activity, it's better to sweat in training than to bleed in on the battlefield. What is your saying on that?
The more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in battle.
There we go. I love that. I
The
love
more
it.
you sweat, you
Say
gotta
it one
sweat.
more time. Say it one more
The
time.
more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in battle.
Do you not agree with that, guys? This is like freaking awesome. It's so true. And this is what I don't understand. Why do you suppose some people back off of that? It's like I can't imagine not having my my track my skill set down. I just can't even imagine going into a presentation not knowing where I'm going and how I'm getting there. I just or right and having a sense of ownership during that entire presentation and finalizing the sale. I just don't understand how you can do that without making sure that you have that skill set in place.
Yeah, it makes sense because if you don't have confidence, I'm sorry. It's the limiting beliefs, it's the assumptions, it's the interpretations, it's the lack of confidence. If you don't believe you could do it, someone's going to say something, but it's too high level. It's not me. That's Becky could do that, not me. And the way people sometimes share it, it's like, hey, it's like it's obvious. Just do this, this, this. Do you know why? Do you know this? So yeah, I will never train somebody from unless I debug them first. My process is debugging first because they have it. Think of it this way: everyone vibrates at different frequencies. So somebody with low confidence, imagine you're teaching them some high level stuff. It just ain't gonna stick. But imagine you could take them. Now I'm a life coach as well. So imagine you could take them and you could elevate their frequency so that they could receive this information. That's what it's all about. So what am I saying? All training is good. Someone's ability to receive it, however, you roll the dice because everyone has those personal problems that they're bringing up. But there is a way to make it equal when you take a concept and you bring it down to the basics. For instance, I'll say to the finance manager, "Hey, what's your goal?" I don't know where I should be. Okay, I'll say this. Imagine you go to the airport and you jump on a random plane. Where do you end up? A random town. Okay, it makes sense. Now imagine you go to the airport and you buy a ticket to Hawaii. Where do you end up? I end up in Hawaii. So when people look at their life, it's designed to spec. If you didn't have a goal, wherever you are is exactly where you should be because it's random. So this gives people hope actually because they're not there from circumstance. They didn't have a goal, so it's designed. So when you ask them, hey, what about those people around you who had goals? What happened? So then see, they could see it. So they need to be able to, like, when we look in our face in a mirror and we see a blemish, we could adjust it. But people can't see where they're doing wrong because there's too much high level stuff. They think it's this person, that person. So I take a concept down and make somebody see in the mirror. And when somebody sees in the mirror, they're going to change. They just can't see in the mirror and no one's showing them. So they have a buy. They don't have a buy with Mike. Because I'll call it how it is in a way that they could just relate and they have to judge their own perception to what I say. I don't sell nothing. They have to judge what I just said against what they already know. There's a disconnect.
Well, it's very, very difficult to manage what you don't know. It's very difficult to manage if you don't know where you're going. You don't know if you don't know where you're at, where your goals are, where are you going? Where are you going to end up? You're so right. I love that analogy. It's like, you're headed to Hawaii. I can't wait till I get there, or wherever that you may be going. It is a destination that you have a goal set to. So each and every single day, what do you tell your F&I managers, your dealers about goal setting? And before we do that, Natasha Evans says, don't practice until you get it right. Practice until you can't get it wrong. Yes! Yeah, she's another one of my friends. I'm liking her.
Yes.
That's what these guys need to listen to. I can talk about this until the freaking cows come home, truthfully. And it's like, we hear me, but when you hear it from other professionals, people like yourself, man, that's what resonates with hope with me and with everyone. Thanks again, Michael. These words still resonate with me. You go, girl. Wow. I love it. So awesome. This is good stuff. This is where you get people to, make a difference. They get excited. They get charged up. Like, you know what? You're right. I remember, when we talked about getting on menu selling back in the day, and it was like, It's just like too weird. And it
Yeah.
was like, no, but this is cool. This is great. We can do this. We can make that happen. We can make it. We can climb that mountain and be good with it. And we did. And you're so right. So how do you set goals? What are your thoughts on F&I people setting their goals to meet their expectations?
Yeah.
Every day? Is it every day? What do you recommend that they do?
I like this conversation. First and foremost, setting goals is not easy for a lot of people because they're scared of failure. So I have to reframe it in a way that they understand it. So first, I'll talk about this helicopter. Going to the airport, and then I'll talk about our minimum standards. We are not our greatest aspirations; we're our minimum standards. People be like, "Oh no, don't scare me." Well, I'll be like this. It's pretty simple. If you look at our bank account, there's a certain money dollar that will resonate. Okay, when it gets lower, we actually feel a certain way, and we get ourselves into gear, and we try to get it up. But when it gets too high, oh, we want to spend.
Right.
Now look at our homes; they're clean. They get dirty, we want to clean it up. It gets too clean, we throw a jacket around. So I say this: look at your F&I numbers. You need to have a goal. Why? Because if you have 3K a copy, and if you're lower than that, guess what? You're gonna feel like crap, and that feeling is gonna drive you. So you see how they get to see how, no, that feeling is going to drive you, because if you don't have the feeling, you're going to do the same thing. So when they're equipped with this knowledge, they're able to self-diagnose themselves and see. It's like invert everything. The bad is the good. The good is not so great. If everything's going smooth, you're getting all good customers, not so great, because you're not learning the skills. So I think the 5% customers, as they're that real education. They let you know where you're at. They let you know where you're at. These other clients are great, but these let you know you're at, and they make you stay humble. So when you reframe these things, they're not scared of nothing. They know that every deal is independently exclusive. Hey, I got 6 cash. That was 6 cash right now. So I talk about these things that interrupt our 10 things, limiting beliefs and stuff that interrupt our way of approaching the customer. So they know this: I am going to feel these things. I am going to see these things. However, I got a process to execute. And if I execute it, I don't have to worry about what my thoughts are. So they just need to be equipped with the right stuff. But in order to equip them with the right stuff, you got to do it. There's too much theory out there in this world where someone's going to tell somebody what they should do based on a theory, and everyone's going to agree because it sounds so great, but it's just not practical. So,
Well,
yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more. We have a Facebook user. You're going to have to say your names because I don't know who it is, because you got to click on that link in order for me to know who you are. But I'm also going to add that the F&I manager must have conviction and belief in his products, which will help with his confidence. Well, you know what? Here's the thing. Why don't they know about their products inside and out?
Number one paid. That's why this job. I really feel passion for this, because, okay, you're telling me you're making a certain amount of money, and by focusing on just learning one product, you could upgrade yourself maybe 30, 40 grand in a year. But we just don't have professionals in the job. That's it. That's all. Right? Professionals do professional stuff. So the one thing coming from a university degree allowed me to kind of productize my process, so to speak, to see it as a business thing. So if I had lack somewhere, if I increase the skill, there's no other job that I know of where you could increase your word track and tomorrow bring more bacon. Come on now. But we're not doing it. We're going to say we don't know what a product is, and we're going to say, oh, I'm not comfortable with that. GMs, sales manager need to say, hey, guys, are you in the right job? Because I know someone on the sales floor who will take this in a heartbeat, who has a good attitude. But we don't know what we don't know. So we don't know how to control these finance managers or what's good or what's not good. So they're left to float. In the number one profit center, they're left to float, to run the dealership, basically, to take their personal problems and bring them into the dealership. No filter, nobody watching. So
I think Mickey Sprouse. Hey, Mickey, I'm glad you were able to attend. He is. I've known Mickey for many, many years, and I can't thank you enough, Mickey. He is a great car guy. He really is. And and I can't even remember what year it was when I first met Mickey. I mean, he came into one of my workshop back in the day for menu selling and training, but He says we like to use the word commitment as opposed to goals. What are your thoughts there? Commitment versus goals.
I mean, hey, let's call it peanut butter sandwich. They know these folks know what we're talking about. We could call it intentions. But until they know this airport theory or to make it sense, then these words won't even resonate because they hear them all the time. They need to hear it in a way that they see the mirror reflection. Oh, good Jesus. He did. The crazy thing about transparency is when you hear it, you can't unhear it. You have to know you're not doing it or not doing it. So I find that to empower somebody is to so to go to Mickey's point, it's not the word we use, it's their understanding and their follow through with it, because that seems to be the variable that's the issue.
So they say it's too confrontational to utilize some of these word tracks, and that you're not natural in your response, and you're more, they say, robotic. And
Well, at the end of the day, what I would say this is, again, are you a professional or not? I don't think this to be the case. I don't see this for myself. So if somebody doesn't have the confidence, they're going to fight the word tracks because they don't want to do it and be embarrassed in front of you. So they're going to make it seem like it's the word tracks, but these word tracks are proven. Why would you want to reinvent the wheel? Somebody please tell me. Do you want to reinvent the wheel? These word tracks come from a history. Like one person on the line, actually. See, when I hear a word, I instantly could see a word track in it. There's one guy on the line. So one word I always use is, I don't talk about electrical, it's advanced electrical. So Wade, who made a comment, I heard him say that once, advanced electrical. I'm like, wow, that's a word that jams so much in one thing. Not electrical, advanced electrical. So I'm going to go and use electrical when I heard, come on.
I know there was one that I used that I heard, then I'm like, you know what? I like this when they were talking about a modern marvel. And I'm like, a modern marvel? Whoa. And they were talking about the utilization of this paint and fabric protection, that it's a modern marvel of all time. I'm like, that's an interesting way to describe paint, the paint protection, a modern marvel. Could be,
Right?
but it is what you pick up that really emphasizes and makes an impact on that product or word track. So why reinvent the wheel if you don't have to? I agree with that. Jeffrey Gittimer, do you know who he is?
No, I don't.
I tell you that you need to look him up. He's very interesting. He's not in the car business. He's a sales leader, and but he hits it, I mean, on point. And there's one of his YouTube videos, he, you know, that I share with in a lot of my training classes, and it's prevention cure. And it's all about understanding the customer and why these word tracks make sense, that you know the objection, you're going to get it a million times. It doesn't matter what state I'm in. It doesn't matter what country I've been in. For these customers object to the same thing all the time. It's always going to be the cost. It's always going to be, I have my own mechanic. It's always going to be, I bought one before, it never covered anything. It's always going to be, I'm buying a Toyota, they never break down. We know we're going to hear the same objection every time. It just stands to reason that we have a planned response. That's really what it is. Yes. Sure. It's a
you know what? Response. Of course. Yeah, it's like game day. I mean, let's get serious. This is either the hardest working, highest paying job or the easiest, lowest paying job. But look, you got to do the work. This is something that's across the board for every industry. It's not about word tracks. Someone's going to complain about word tracks, but you know who's complaining about the word tracks? The $500 copy folk.
Oh,
let's talk to the $3,000 people and see what they think about word tracks.
You know, it's funny. You probably get this too, but I have individuals that come to the workshop, and I have individuals that show up at the workshop. They show up, but they're not in the workshop, right? They're not involved. And it just stands to reason that the guys that are doing the most, their performance is the highest, they're always wanting to grow, to even get better. The ones that are at the bottom, I'm like, come on. What are you waiting for? This is what you need. This is what you need to implement. If you implemented this all the time, you're only going to get better
Mm-hmm.
at your presentation, right? And which in turn is going to make a difference in your overall performance. So why do you suppose it's hard to
I wouldn't.
sometimes bring and I say this, and you
Yes.
may or may not like this, but I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
say it
Mm-hmm.
because I know how you are. And you're like up there in the.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes for me, it's like bringing a mule to water, and it's like, how do you convince someone that getting involved earlier in the sale, meeting customers on their terms, not your terms,
Mm-hmm.
their terms, that get out there, get more information, get involved sooner. How do you get them out there and involved sooner that it really can make a big difference in their overall performance?
Yeah, great question. The good thing is every FSM sitting in these seats are all amazing. They just don't know it, so we got to bring it out of them. So I feel the first stage is simply to give them some value. They need value first. They need to know that this is not another trainer coming in. Look how many trainers come into these places bringing donuts and popcorn, and nobody's numbers are changing, but yet they feel like they're not competent because they're not getting this stuff. So until
Amen.
you bring value to them, like a customer, they don't have no right to be listening to nobody because they got tainted. They got tainted. So when they hear you when they see you when they see that you're able to adjust their personal stuff, how they saw life, oh, don't worry about the listening ears. So, but they need value, and some just had enough. They just had enough. So it's simple in my point, but I realized I didn't answer one of your questions earlier about how often do I set goals. So my training program is a 2-day training. It's a mindset and practical role play. So they leave literally with confidence. That's the whole name of the program. But once a week for a month, I will do virtual meetings, just an hour. And in that meeting, I will get them to do a role play because if they do it, I know they're executing with the customer. And then we'll have some goals. They'll set the goals. I don't set them. I say, what do you want to do? What are you going to do? And they make their commitment. And I like that idea.
I like that. I like the idea, Mickey, of commitment. Yeah.
So thank you for that, Mickey. So they're committed. Okay, no problem. So the next meeting when they show up, if they didn't go it, the best way to do is not to say you didn't do it. It's to say, why didn't you do it? Let them explain it. It's not a good look. You should see they're almost sweating, but then they pick it up next time because they don't want to be embarrassed. What got into your way? So when you empower people by asking them questions, they actually know the answer inside. But you have to ask them questions. Thinking is something that hardly anybody does. But if you want them to think, ask them a question. Hey, how's that working for you?
You know what? I tell you, I think that's very important. I think questions and asking, how is that working for you? But I think that many times we're looking for, we're as a consultant, as a coach, we get to, we can't help but sometimes get a little down on ourselves because it's like, we know that if in fact you implement some of these processes, right? Practices, techniques, it's going to make a big difference. It's really trying to get that individual out from under to see it. When you go into a store, do you do show and tell? What do you do to really get them out of that funk?
Oh, yeah. Great question again. I have methodologies to everything I do.
I
I
bet.
trained over 100 FSMs, and every single one, before I meet with them, they fill out a discovery sheet so I can know their intimate self. See, look, how's this cookie cutter training when this one has this habit, this one have. I know someone was a receptionist. I know this is what they did. I know why they get into the business. So when I'm training and I'm saying that, hey, look, you didn't do it, no problem, but you said something on that sheet where you wanted to be a gem. So it's about holding them accountable.
Amen. There's a word.
That's the key. It's the key to it all. It's the accountability.
Yeah.
But on them holding themselves accountable, not anything other than asking them questions. They will hold themselves accountable if you ask them the right thing, and they know your heart's in it. If they know, you should see my training videos. When I see these trainers deal with these FSMs, it's like they treat them like they're little babies. No, they need approach where it says, hey, look, Randy, you said you're gonna do it. That's that. But they need this. They love it. They love it. They look forward to the call because they know you're going to tell them the facts. You're not going to cute it up for them. But people just need to be that. They need to hear. I say thank you. I hear this a lot. Thank you for holding me accountable. Yeah.
Speaking of accountability, and I'm kind of changing the topic just a tad bit.
Yes.
And what are your thoughts on an F&I person who raises the profit on a service contract higher than MSRP or retail, whatever that retail amount is, to show I'm just curious, a bigger discount?
I first of all know that I say this to this business about this business. This business is a simulation. It's the same as the world. It's karma. Those folks who want to do that, they're basically not thinking right. Because if you want to add more value to the customer, add another product. You could blend and bundle things to add more products so the customer gets value. So they're just again personal problems showing up. So what do I think about it? It's going to come back and bite them one way, shape, or form. If you think about this industry, if you just always leave on good terms, think of how this business is like the world. Later in life, you're going to need a gig, you're going to need something, and the same people who you're treated kindly are the decision makers now. So good luck with doing that. What you do in the dark comes to light.
Amen.
Especially in this business.
It does. I really like that analogy, what you just said. What you do in the dark comes to light. And I have the hardest time with this sometimes because so many F&I people think, it's okay to start off and raise the retail higher than what it should be so I can show the customer $1,000 discount. And I'm like, well, don't you think that the customer sees $1,000 discount that you lose credibility when you do that? Wouldn't it be much better to add a particular product to show value or added value in that service contract rather than going from this price? Oh, I didn't mean that. Let's just drop $1,000. How does that work? And do you I think sometimes F&I people don't understand that customers are smart, that that maybe they can figure things out. And then if you lose credibility, it's very difficult to get that back.
Well, in this business, you just go to another dealership. If you see someone going to dealership, there's some issues going on. Yeah. But you're totally right. But this is like these 5%ers out there, right? It's like the customer. When someone focuses on training on a 5%er, look, take the feedback. There's hardly training you could do on a 5%er. There's 85% who will buy if you make it make sense. Let's not worry about the 5%er. Just know what you could have did better. And so these are like it's like the folks in life. It's like if somebody wants to do that, I can't resonate with that. So it's going to catch up to them. It's plain and simple. But this business, actually, if you want to be number one in this business, your heart has to be in it for the customer. It just can't work any other way because customers these days, they detect. Look, you could use the right words. They know your body language, your tone and inflection is a fraud, right? So they're just going to say no, but you're going to say my words sounded good. No, so yeah, it's more and more. I would think it's more and more difficult to manipulate people because there's many other cues. And they're educated. So, yeah, that's something that's going to creep back up.
So what do you think about, just kind of curious about what's going on in the marketplace today, and dealers are able to get their MSRP, which they're deserving of. I mean, I don't really have an issue with that, but some of these other dealers that are marking some of their vehicles up like 5,000 over MSRP. I don't know if you have that in Canada or not, or if that's even permissible or not, but we have some of that going on here in the States.
Yeah, again, people will sometimes run when they could run. However, this stuff is going to come back to them. They're not going to be the most profitable groups. They're not. So the customers will deal with them because the customers choose where they want to go. So yeah, add 50 grand if you want. When you think you have less customers and you think it's the thing, no, because they saw it for the right price, somebody who cares. So the ones who treat the customer the way, that's where the business is going to going, and they're actually going to steal business during this time, and these customers are going to come back because literally people want to go where they're going to be served. People have this still bad impression about this business, yet it's a great business because they run into a few folks. So when a customer runs into someone who cares, it makes it easier to have them for life. So any customer who adopts the proper policies, they're going to win, because customers are leaving places now during this shortage. They're now, well, now Bobby doesn't have the car, so they're going to check another dealership they wouldn't have checked and give them a chance to wow them. Hey, wait a minute. That other place I was going was a fraud. I'm very passionate, so I
Yeah.
like to use these words, but yeah, for sure.
So how do you see this playing out in the next couple years, in the next 3 to 5 years? You got EV, electric vehicles coming in, and you got more and more where we're talking about digitalizing the entire workflow from online to in dealership. How do you see all that panning out in Canada, in your stores, as well as take it a step further with presenting digital menus and that sort of thing online? How do you see that all coming together?
One of my biggest claims to fame for myself is I focus on maximizing what I could focus on today. Because think of 10 years ago, they were talking digital's coming in the next few years. So I'm not going to prepare for something that I think will come. I'd let it naturally come and see what it actually looks like to work with it. But so I feel like what I'm saying ultimately is there's too much opportunity to focus on maximizing what's in front of us. It's not even being maximized. So I feel like that's where the miss is, preparing too much for the future and forgetting what's here that's real in front of us. So I have this saying to myself: yesterday it's gone. Tomorrow is a concept. You could only make up what you think it is. If you did the best you could with what you could today, do you have to worry about tomorrow? Is it now tomorrow never comes. It's only now you deal. Let me put in another perspective. I have a smile every single day. And I will say to somebody, you could smile every day. And a lot of people will say that they actually are happy every day. But when do we not get happy? When we're thinking of yesterday or tomorrow. But if we're in the moment, we're good. So I focus on maximizing my time in the moment, and whatever comes, I'll adjust as it's necessary. But there's too many hypotheses. There's too many predictions, and those predictions lead to what we do today. So I could be sitting here outside with some nice trees, but thinking of what's going to happen tomorrow. And all of a sudden I have anxiety, but I'm in the nice area and nice trees. So I focus on the goods in front of me. But naturally, it's about convenience for the customer. So I would think that these processes will allow the customer, the end user, to have a better experience. So it only makes sense that digital might be that platform.
Well, it's interesting because we have F&I people still today that are utilizing a paper menu presentation. You'll probably have a lot more in your neck of the woods than and we probably still have plenty that are still with a paper menu. And it is, in many cases, difficult for some of these guys. It's like playing guitar and then going to piano. It's a different instrument. It just feels different, right? But it can be a lot more efficient. So I had another F&I person on live talk with me, Dora Musi, and she was intriguing to say the least. And Brian Kramer was the GM. And from COVID, the minute COVID came, he was all about, okay, we're taking the opportunity. We're going to digitalize this entire workflow from online to in dealership to finalizing this transaction in F&I. Now, you can say it, but doing it is quite a different chore. And it was tough going for her, to go from traditional to completely digital. But 3 years later, this gal is phenomenal. There is no paper on the floor. Everything is completely digital. There's talk about efficiency. There's no going back and worrying about whether or not you have to collect a document from the customer because you forgot it within the process. Everything is uploaded to a private server. You have the electronic deal jacket going into the F&I office. It's correct. It's complete. Oh my God. I'm thinking, I just absolutely love it. It is, and it does require heavy lifting to get there. But at the end, her performance is higher than it's ever been.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'll even go this. I don't even know if I told you about this, but her customer saw the video, this live talk,
Mm-hmm.
contacts me via Facebook and tells me it's true. Every word. He purchased a vehicle. He went through the experience and said it was the best experience he's ever had. And you want to know what? I asked him, I said, you think you might want to come on the live talk and talk about your experience here that you
Mm-hmm.
had with Dora? How unique is that? I just,
Yeah.
so yeah, sometimes you have to do a little bit of heavy, sometimes you do have to do some heavy lifting to get to the next place. And
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's fundamental. You're right. The more you do the stuff in life that's easy, life will be hard. You do stuff in life that's hard, life becomes easy. And
I
and
think, yeah.
yeah, sorry, continue.
No, I just wanted to get, your feedback when it comes to that, because yeah, I realize that there's some, you, you got to make some change. Change is difficult.
What's the only thing consistent in this world, never mind this business, is change. So you got to be earlier adopter. Now, think of this. Cell phones evolves,
Thanks,
cars
Becky.
evolves, front end, the desk up front evolved. But the process of the F&I is the same. So anything that you could change is going to allow you to get feedback to see how it works. But we just can't use what we know now to initiate that change. Because somebody says menu, everyone's want to be freaked. But then when they try the menu, it works. Same with this. So this gentleman you described as a pioneer, because you have to be a pioneer. He saw the vision, implemented it. I mean, everyone was probably up in arms, but then you see after. But you have to evolve or you erode. There's no
Well, I
other.
think that he's a bit of an anomaly, but I see that as a direction moving forward. It's no different than, to me, when we first implemented menu selling back in the day. It was uncomfortable. No one seemed to really like the idea behind it,
I
and
was one of them.
right, and everyone said, "There's no way you can be upfront and still be profitable." I don't know who come up with this one, but you got to quit drinking the Kool-Aid, Becky. And but yeah, so it took some really kind of thinking through, some heavy lifting in understanding that there's a different way to make this happen.
For sure.
And I see digital as the same thing. I'm not doing digital just to do it, just because it sounds cool.
It's transparency, right?
It is about transparency, but it's also about being more efficient.
You put those together and you have an amazing combination. Look, this beautiful thing about transparency, it's a customer's nightmare because they have anchors of what they believe to be true. And their anchor is Uncle Freddie, maybe Aunt Janine, who knows the past experience. So when you share transparently what could happen, what this looks like, they now have a new anchor point. So when you tell them the facts, now they shouldn't have known that, because now that they know it, they're going to buy the stuff. So when you have a process that allows for transparency, no manipulation in the numbers, it just makes it more transparent. The customer could be at ease. So these systems, we get in our own way. It removes the roadblocks. We need to remove the roadblocks. Let the FSM's character shine. Not for them to be in the job pretending to be a finance manager. Shine. So to do this, you need systems eventually. What I do is a process, which is basically a system. So for sure, I mean, without it, what are you doing? Reinventing the wheel each time?
Well, the thing is that I can't imagine, it's since that conversation, having a better understanding and working with some of our dealers to really minimize the mistakes that can ultimately affect our CITs, contracting transit, to eliminate that really helps to make a greater impact in our overall F&I performance. And I know you realize that if I don't have as many interruptions throughout the day because I'm cleaning up past mistakes, it's obviously going to impact a more positive performance in every single one of my presentations that I have with a customer. But if I'm always having to look behind my shoulder and a customer, I'm waiting for, or customers waiting for me to get into F&I to clean something up, that's going to ultimately affect our overall performance. So that's how I see it. I see it as clean business and being more efficient, and an overall customer, overall customers are much more satisfied in their
percent. An ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure.
That's right. So how do you see, okay, so you're saying, let's not go so much into the future. Let's talk about what's taking place right now. Let's talk about the present.
The present is that inventory shortage is real, and we need to maximize every dollar we can. And if we have folks who we're worried about cars, not having enough cars, but yet we're having $1,000 average in the back end, we could actually make up for it. So there's no real loss per se for those who have their systems, their technology in place. There's no loss for those ones. There's loss for those who weren't prepared. Now, this time also give those an opportunity to prepare now, because it's like the world is so beautiful. You either be a pioneer and you create, or circumstance will make you create. So the world's always looking out. So that's kind of my viewpoint on that aspect.
So, one of the things that I talk to F&I people about all the time is